All right, I think we're back. Do we have Rob?
I'm here. How are you, Ryan?
Excellent. I can hear you and see you good. How are you today? Good to see you.
Terrific. Good. Thanks for having us.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, great. You could join. I really appreciate it. Rob is with Dealpath. He is the Senior VP of Product. And I think what you'll see here is just another component of the stack. This one in particular on the application side. Dean, I won't steal any. Sorry, Rob, I won't steal any of your thunder. So please take it away.
Yeah, terrific. Well, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, I think Dealpath occupies a very different position in the total tech stack, but a very important one. Whereas a lot of the other solutions that we're going to talk about today really are more about managing the asset once it's in your portfolio. Dealpath today really addresses kind of the beginning and the end of the asset lifecycle. So how you bring assets into your portfolio through the acquisitions process, and then when you're ready to exit that investment through the dispositions process. So just a little bit of background, quick history on Dealpath. The company was founded about 8 years ago in 2014, and the founders identified that there was a significant problem that existed in the real estate acquisitions process, and this problem only got bigger. It only exacerbated as the size of the asset increased. And that's that, first of all, there were, in any acquisition, there was dozens, sometimes hundreds of people that were touching that acquisition. It was a highly fragmented, very people-intensive process, but it was also a very expensive process. Just to be able to get to a point to determine whether, a firm would want to, engage, make an offer on an asset, they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars in outside consultants, and procuring data, environmental studies, legal, certainly, through the due diligence process. So it was this fragmented and very expensive process. And in the software world, in commercial real estate, there were lots of solutions out there that helped companies manage those assets once they were part of their portfolio, but almost nothing that really sort of dealt with the, beginning and the end of the real estate life cycle. So that became the impetus for Dealpath. And Dealpath built a cloud-based platform that could, number one, deal with this highly decentralized data, hundreds of spreadsheets and emails and lots of disparate systems that were housing this important information through the offer and due diligence process. Very complicated and laborious reporting process, trying to get information to the investment committee and to senior executives, and just really just rife with inefficiency. So, sorry, I'm going to skip ahead. There we go. There. So the solution to that was to build a scalable, centralized, cloud-based application that would allow for real estate organizations to source deals, manage information in a single system of record, and then be able to report to and involve all the key individuals involved in the process. And a good part of that is automating the workflows, automating what the processes are across various teams and throughout the acquisition process to be able to expedite the way reports are generated, expedite deal analysis. So Dealpath was really sort of constructed around those principles. And what we've proven, and I'll talk a little bit more about our process, but that we've been able to provide deal teams with an ability to process more opportunities and just simply run more deals through their pipeline, which generates, huge returns, huge ROIs for the companies that implement it. But just as importantly, it provides a single source of truth, a single pipeline for all the deals that any real estate organization is currently, looking at, working on, and get away from those disparate and siloed systems. So we've also recognized, as we worked with a number of larger and very sophisticated real estate companies, big global allocators, investment managers with, hundreds of millions and in many cases billions of dollars of assets under management, that this type of application, the type of software Dealpath is, can't just simply live on its own. It has to work with other platforms that are already in use within those organizations, right? It has to be fully interoperable with the rest of the, the enterprise tech stack, as we're talking about here today, the rest of their technology ecosystem. So there's some key questions that our customers ask when they're looking at Dealpath as a solution. And that's, number one is, does the platform talk to other software? can it integrate? Is there a robust set of APIs that allow for data to move back and forth? Is the information scalable? Can it touch all the different parts of my tech stack and throughout the entire life cycle? So one thing we recognized early on is that this type of application can't be an all things to one size fits all things to all people process. So it's a highly customized solution, but it's also we implement a very structured deployment and implementation process. We've been very successful in this implementation process across roughly about 250 of the largest commercial real estate investors in North America and globally. And some of these investors include companies like, Blackstone, AEW, Oxford, Nuveen, Manulife. And one of the keys to that process is that the implementation itself, just getting the software onboarded, is highly structured. It's methodical, but most importantly, it's highly metric. We want to be able to measure success throughout the process. And we learned that in an implementation, don't shoot for the moon immediately. Just make sure that you have achievable milestones throughout the implementation process. If you bring on ever increasing numbers of people, different teams within your organization, and start with and focus on first the most inefficient processes that you have. But as we'll talk about maybe throughout this panel, make sure that you understand what the goal or the expected outcome of that technology investment and that implementation is. So Ryan, with that, I'll just turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. That's really great stuff. You touched on a number of things there that I think I might have referenced at the top, which was open architecture and what I call master data. I think you called it centralized data. So thinking about the presentation that Dean just gave and the kind of the operating model target state, perhaps. When you engage with your clients, how important is that organizational maturity? How important is it that their systems have open APIs that you can integrate to, or that they're there in the first place? I think maybe sometimes there's some gaps, or that don't have a data strategy like that. How do you help those folks, or what is the advice that you give them, or how do you work in those types of situations?
Well, so I guess maybe I'll kind of answer it in two parts. First, with respect to the, sort of the ability to connect to and kind of the open architecture of other systems, I think it's absolutely critical. Today, personally, I would not invest in any solution that can't demonstrate that it has the ability to, push and pull data with other platforms and do that in real time. I think that's just become table stakes. In 20 years ago, when I first got into commercial real estate technology, we used to talk about, a single solution platform, right? Like one system that could, an ERP platform that could handle everything end to end, or it might have been, for systems management, building management, et cetera. Well, that doesn't exist anymore, right? Like those days of single system solutions are just gone. We're an ecosystem of really excellent point solutions, but now with the ability to, work with others. So I think that's critical. And with respect to the organizational maturity, some companies already have it going in, but for those that feel like they don't have that, working with an experienced vendor that's done this hundreds of times, like Dealpath has, we can help to bring more of a best practices approach. I know Real Foundation certainly does that, with their consulting clients and among others. But be able to bring in best practices that they've learned. So rely on your vendor, rely on your consultant to help show you, what are some of the better and more efficient ways to be able to deploy this technology in your organization. You shouldn't necessarily have to already have that maturity to be able to leverage these solutions.
Yeah, good. That's great. And then, I'd also kind of commented or tried to break apart maybe some of the bigger chunks of this real estate lifecycle management process that I like to discuss. One of those was what I'll call the transaction space. How do you see that? And I ask that question because I think what is critical in this stack is really the handoffs, right? You guys do a great job at what you do. the next guy does a great job down the road of what they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, leading product vendors. And so I think the focus maybe is on the handoffs, the inputs and the outputs to and from your particular tool. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? How you kind of see that, the world of that lifecycle management and some of those handoffs and whatnot? What's important in your mind as you deploy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, certainly, if you think about the front end of the asset lifecycle, the acquisitions process, and I'll just, again, using our software as an example, the owners and the investors are aggregating a tremendous amount of information about those assets, right? Whether it's, it's rent roll information, it's, all the, financial data, everything that's going to be used in the underwriting and in the valuation assumptions. If it's, property that they're then going to, recapitalize and develop, they may be, might be engineering information, construction plans, et cetera. So we're going to collect a lot of that information at the beginning of the process. But if we were to assume that we were the end of that, that process as well, that would be doing the owner, the investor, a tremendous disservice. So our job then is to make sure that the ability to hand off that data to the next system, whether it's a construction management platform or it's a rent roll accounting or asset management platform, portfolio, investor relations, leasing, products, products that handle the leasing process like VTS and others. Our job is to make sure that there's a seamless flow of that information that's collected during the acquisitions process to these other platforms. And then hopefully, once the investor is ready to exit that investment, down the road, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years after their hold period, and they're ready to dispose of that asset, hopefully at a much appreciated value at that point in time, we'd love for that handoff to take place the other way, right? Now coming from the asset portfolio management back to Dealpath so that we can help with the disposition process.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you. We'll bring you back for the panel Q&A. Appreciate your input and your presentation there.